I inherited my uncle's struggling alpaca farm, and now my city slicker siblings are suing me because they wanted to sell it to developers. I, 34M, recently inherited my eccentric Uncle Bert's alpaca farm. Now, before you start picturing some quaint little homestead with a few fluffy animals grazing in a meadow, let me paint you a picture of the alpaca lips. Yes, that's what Uncle Bert named it. Imagine 50 acres of hilly terrain in rural Oregon, dotted with over 200 alpacas in various states of wool growth and attitude problems. There's a ramshackle farmhouse that looks like it was decorated by a blind hoarder with a penchant for alpaca-themed knickknacks. The barn is more of a labyrinth than a structure, with additions built seemingly at random over the years. And don't even get me started on the processing shed where Uncle Bert used to turn alpaca wool into artisanal yarn, reed, lumpy, inconsistently dyed strings that he sold at exorbitant prices to hipsters. Now, I'm no farmer. Up until a month ago, I was a moderately successful software engineer living in Portland. My idea of animal husbandry was remembering to feed my goldfish, Pixel, every day. But Uncle Bert and I always had a special bond. He was the black sheep, or should I say, the odd alpaca out, of the family, and I was the nephew who actually listened to his crazy stories and wild ideas. So when I got the call that Uncle Bert had passed away, apparently he'd been trying to teach an alpaca to surf and had a heart attack from the excitement, I was devastated. What I didn't expect was to find out he'd left me his entire alpaca empire in his will. My siblings, Karen, 39F, and Chad, 36M, were livid. They'd always seen Uncle Bert as the family embarrassment and had been counting on selling his land to developers once he kicked the bucket. There's been talk of turning the area into some kind of bougie eco-resort, and they had dollar signs in their eyes. But here's the thing, as crazy as it sounds, I kind of love this place. In the 2 weeks I've been here, I've named at least 50 of the alpacas. Highlights include Fluffernutter, Sir Spitz-a-Lot, and Cusco, learned how to avoid their projectile spit with some Matrix-style moves, and actually managed to shear one without it looking like it was attacked by a weed whacker. The farm is struggling, no doubt about it. Uncle Bert's unconventional business practices, including but not limited to, alpaca yoga, alpaca chinos at his small cafe, and renting out alpacas for Zoom background purposes during the pandemic, left the finances in shambles. But I see potential here. With my tech background, I think I could modernize operations, maybe set up virtual alpaca experiences or an artisanal alpaca wool e-commerce site. Karen and Chad are furious. They've been calling me nonstop, alternating between guilt-tripping, "Mom always said you were her favorite, how could you do this to us?" threats, "We'll sue you for every penny," and bizarre bribes, "I'll give you my timeshare in Boca if you sell the farm." Yesterday, they showed up at the farm with a team of lawyers and developers in tow. Picture this, a group of suits trying to navigate a field of curious, sometimes hostile alpacas while I'm standing on the porch in muddy boots and alpaca my bag's t-shirt I found in Uncle Bert's closet. The meeting did not go well. Highlights included: 1. Chad getting into a spitting contest with Sergeant Slobber, the alpaca one. 2. Karen shrieking about the state of her Louboutins after stepping in what I hope was mud. 3. One of the lawyers asking if alpacas were just weird sheep and nearly causing a riot among the more sensitive alpacas. 4. Me accidentally referring to the alpacas as my children and getting some very concerned looks. In the end, I stood my ground. I told them that Uncle Bert left the farm to me for a reason, and I intend to honor his memory by keeping it running. I may not know much about alpacas, yet, but I know that turning this quirky, wonderful place into another soulless resort would be a tragedy. Now Karen and Chad are threatening to take me to court. They're claiming that Uncle Bert wasn't of sound mind when he made his will, citing the alpaca for president campaign he ran in 2020 as evidence, and that as his oldest living relatives, they have more right to the property than I do. So, Reddit, here I am, surrounded by 200 judgmental alpacas, up to my ears in wool, and facing a family civil war. Am I the asshole for wanting to keep this strange, wonderful alpaca farm instead of selling out to developers? Or should I give in to my money-hungry siblings and say goodbye to my new fluffy friends? TLDR, I inherited my uncle's failing alpaca farm. My siblings want to sell it to developers, but I want to keep it running. Now they're threatening to sue me. Ida? Edit 1, wow, this blew up overnight. I guess there are more alpaca enthusiasts out there than I thought. I'm going to try to answer some of the most common questions here. 1. Yes, alpacas and llamas are different animals. Please don't let the alpacas hear you confuse them, they're very sensitive about this. 2. No, I can't just take a few alpacas and sell the rest of the farm. First of all, they're a herd and need to stay together. Secondly, I'm pretty sure they're plotting something and I don't want to make them angry by separating them. 3. For those asking about Uncle Bert's alpaca for president campaign, yes, it was a real thing. No, he didn't expect to win. Yes, he did make America Fluffy Again hats. No, I don't know where he stored them all, but if I find them I'll consider selling them as merch. 4. Many of you have asked if I'm single. I'm flattered, but I think I need to focus on not accidentally shearing myself before I start dating again. Edit 2. Things have escalated. I need to update you all on the latest developments. Grab some popcorn, or some alpaca treats, this is going to be a wild ride. So, remember how I mentioned Karen and Chad were threatening legal action? Well, they made good on that threat. I was served with papers yesterday. By a very confused and slightly traumatized process server who had to brave the alpaca gauntlet to reach the house. I found him cornered by Fluffernutter and the Spitfire sisters, a trio of particularly ornery alpacas, clinging to his leather briefcase like it was a shield. After rescuing him, and apologizing profusely, I read through the lawsuit. Apparently, Karen and Chad are not just contesting the will, they're claiming that I unduly influenced Uncle Bert by engaging in and encouraging his alpaca-related delusions. They've dredged up every quirky thing Uncle Bert and I ever did together as evidence of my manipulation. Some highlights from their complaint. 1. This summer I helped Uncle Bert organize an alpaca cello music festival on the farm. It was just us, the alpacas, and a Bluetooth speaker, but we had a great time. 2. The time we entered Cusco, remember him? In a local dog show to challenge societal norms about species and competition. We were disqualified pretty quickly, but Cusco did win the unofficial Most Surprising Participant Award. 3. Our attempt to create alpaca-drawn carriages for wine tours in the nearby valley. Turns out, alpacas are not keen on pulling anything. Who knew? 4. The alpacagram service we tried to start, where people could pay to have a singing telegram delivered by a person in an alpaca costume. Cease and desist letters from a certain candy company shut that down fast. They're painting me as some kind of alpaca-obsessed Svengali who pushed Uncle Bert further and further into alpaca madness for my own gain. The irony of them calling me manipulative when they're the ones who've been trying to bully me into selling the farm is apparently lost on them. But here's where it gets really interesting. In a twist I definitely didn't see coming, some of Uncle Bert's old friends have gotten wind of the situation. And let me tell you, the alpaca community is small but mighty. This morning, I woke up to find a virtual army of alpaca enthusiasts setting up camp on the edges of the farm. They've got RVs decked out with alpaca decals, more fleece clothing than a mountaineering convention, and signs proclaiming things like alpacas over avarice and you can pry this farm from my cold, wool-covered hands. Their leader is a formidable woman named Pam, who apparently runs the largest alpaca farm in the state. She marched up to me, somehow avoiding all the alpaca landmines in her path, and declared, "We're here to protect Bert's legacy, honey. No alpacas left behind." So now I've got 200 plus alpacas, all of whom seem to be watching this drama unfold with great interest. A horde of alpaca enthusiasts treating my farm like it's Woodstock for wool lovers. 2 siblings who are out for blood, or at least, liquidated assets, a steep learning curve on both alpaca husbandry and agricultural law. A growing suspicion that I'm in way over my head. But you know what? Despite all the chaos, I'm happier than I've been in years. There's something about waking up to the sound of alpacas humming, yes, they hum, and it's adorable, and spending my days problem solving in the fresh air that feels right. I've started to reach out to local artisans about collaborating on alpaca wool products. I'm working on a website to share the farm's story and hopefully start attracting visitors. And I've even begun halting attempts at learning to knit. So far I've made what might be a scarf or might be an avant-garde alpaca leg warmer, I'm not sure. I know the road ahead is going to be tough. I'm up against money-hungry siblings, skeptical lawyers, and the very real challenges of running a struggling farm. But every time I look out at the fields and see my alpaca herd, or when one of them deigns to let me pet their impossibly soft fur, I know I'm going to fight to keep this place running. So, Reddit, am I crazy for giving up my comfortable tech job to run an alpaca farm and battle my siblings in court? Maybe. But I've got 200 fuzzy cheerleaders and an army of alpaca enthusiasts on my side. Wish me luck, I think I'm going to need it. TLDR, siblings are suing me over the alpaca farm inheritance, claiming I manipulated my uncle. Now I've got a farm full of alpacas, a camp of alpaca enthusiasts, and a newfound determination to make this work. Send help. Or sheep shears. Or maybe a really good lawyer who specializes in agricultural law and doesn't mind being paid in alpaca wool. Edit 3, holy smokes, You guys. I can't believe the response this has gotten. Your support means the world to me and the alpacas. I've been reading them your comments, they seem pleased although it's hard to tell with alpacas sometimes. I've gotten so many questions and offers of help that I can barely keep up. But I wanted to give you all an update on the latest developments here at the alpaca lips. 1. Legal battle. My sibling's lawsuit is proceeding, but I've found a lawyer who specializes in agricultural law and unusual inheritances. Her name is Gloria, and she showed up to our first meeting wearing alpaca wool socks, so I think we're in good hands. She's confident that Uncle Bert's will is solid, but we're preparing for a fight. 2. Alpaca Army. The encampment of alpaca enthusiasts has turned into something of a festival. They've started offering workshops on fiber arts, alpaca care, and something called alpaca meditation, which mostly involves sitting very still in a field and trying not to get spit on. I'm learning so much, and the alpacas seem to be enjoying the attention. 3. Farm finances. Thanks to suggestions from many of you, I've started an Alpaca Lips Instagram account. Turns out, people really love seeing daily alpaca antics. We've gone from 10 followers, mostly spam bots, to over 100K in just a week. I'm working on monetizing this through sponsored posts and merchandise. Our first t-shirt design, Keep Calm and Alpaca On, is already in production. 4. Alpaca Adventures. Taking advice from some of you, I've started offering alpaca hikes. We take a few of our more people-friendly alpacas on nature walks with guests. It's been a hit, especially the Sunset Alpaca Wine Hike where we end the tour with local wines and cheese, and the alpacas get special treats too. Only minor incidents so far, mostly involving overly enthusiastic selfie takers. 5. Wool production. I've connected with a local fiber artist who's teaching me the ropes of processing our alpaca wool. We're working on a line of Alpaca Lips Now luxury yarns. Each colorway is named after one of our alpacas. Sir Spitz-a-Lot Green is particularly popular. 6. Family drama. Karen and Chad haven't given up. They've started a smear campaign in the local community, telling everyone I'm an alpaca cultist who brainwashed Uncle Bert. Joke's on them though, the local farmers think it's hilarious and have started leaving offerings of hay and apples at the farm gate for the alpaca overlords. 7. Personal life. Remember how I mentioned being single? Well, turns out running an alpaca farm is a great conversation starter. I've been chatting with a local vet who specializes in camelids, that's the animal family alpacas belong to. Thanks, Alpaca Fact of the Day calendar. We're going on our first date next week. I'm both excited and terrified. What does one wear on a date when one is now known as the alpaca guy? 8. Alpaca innovations. Taking a page from Uncle Bert's book, I've been brainstorming new ways to make the farm stand out. Our upcoming events include alpaca Zumba, dancing in the field with alpacas, paint with alpacas, exactly what it sounds like, it's going to be messy, and alpaca therapy sessions for stressed out tech workers. If I can relax by hugging an alpaca, anyone can. 9. Community outreach. We've started an Adopt an Alpaca program for local schools. Classes can sponsor an alpaca, name it, and visit it throughout the year. It's educational and adorable, plus it's creating a new generation of alpaca enthusiasts. The Alpaca Club at the local elementary school already has more members than the soccer team. 10. The alpacas themselves, they continue to be the fuzzy, humming, occasionally ornery heart of this whole operation. I've gotten much better at telling them apart, and I swear they're starting to respond to their names. Fluffernutter has appointed himself my personal bodyguard and follows me everywhere. The Spitfire sisters have taken to helping with farm tours by blocking the paths of any visitors they deem unworthy. And Cusco. Well, Cusco still thinks he's emperor of the farm, but we humor him. I know this whole situation is crazy. I know that I've turned my life upside down for a herd of animals that sometimes seem to actively dislike me. I know that I'm facing an uphill legal battle and that running a farm is one of the hardest jobs out there. But you know what? I haven't regretted my decision for a single moment. Every morning when I step outside and see the sunrise over the hills, hear the gentle humming of the alpacas, and breathe in the fresh country air, I know I'm exactly where I'm meant to be. Edit 4. Alpaca your bags, folks, because this update is a doozy. It's been a month since my last post, and the Alpaca Lips continues to be the gift that keeps on giving. Grab some popcorn, or some alpaca treats, and settle in for the latest installment of my life as an accidental alpaca farmer. The legal showdown. Remember Gloria, my alpaca sock-wearing lawyer? Well, she's worth her weight in alpaca wool. We had our first court hearing last week, and it was an experience. Karen and Chad showed up with a team of slick city lawyers, all looking very out of place in our small-town courthouse. Gloria, on the other hand, strode in confidently in a suit made of, you guessed it, alpaca wool. The highlight of the hearing was when Gloria presented evidence of Uncle Bert's sound mind, a series of surprisingly coherent and philosophical journals he'd kept about his life with the alpacas. Turns out, beneath all the wacky schemes and alpaca puns, Uncle Bert was something of a poet and a profound thinker. The judge was visibly moved by passages about finding peace and purpose through caring for his alpaca herd. The kicker? The last entry, dated just a week before he passed, read, "My name, my boy, you're the only one who ever truly understood. This farm, these alpacas, they're my legacy. And soon, they'll be yours. Take care of them, and they'll take care of you. I'm not crying, you're crying." The judge has ordered a full trial, but Gloria feels optimistic. Karen and Chad left the courthouse in a huff, but not before Chad tripped over his own expensive loafers and face planted in front of the alpaca supporters who'd gathered outside. The alpacas would have appreciated the slapstick humor. Alpacalypse goes viral. Remember that Instagram account I started? Well, it exploded. We're now at over 500k followers. Our most popular post? A video of me attempting to shear Sergeant Slobber, set to the Benny Hill theme. Apparently, my mix of determination and complete ineptitude is comedy gold. We've had offers for reality TV shows, but I'm hesitant. The alpacas are divas enough without cameras following them around. Though I must admit, keeping up with the alpacas has a nice ring to it. Romance on the range. So, about that date with the camelid vet? Her name is Dr. Sarah, and she's amazing. Our first date was a picnic on the farm, which turned into an impromptu medical checkup when Sir Spits-a-Lot decided to eat a sock. Nothing says romance like alpaca stomach massage, right? Despite the rocky start, we really hit it off. She's brilliant, kind, and she doesn't mind that I sometimes smell like alpaca. We've been seeing each other regularly, and the alpacas seem to approve. Fluffernutter has even stopped trying to stand between us whenever she visits. As I write this, I'm sitting on the porch of the farmhouse. The sun is setting over the hills, painting the sky in shades of pink and gold. The alpacas are settling in for the night, their gentle hums creating a soothing backdrop. Dr. Sarah is inside, making us dinner. A year ago, I was debugging code in a sterile office, living for the weekends. Now, I'm watching over a herd of alpacas, fighting a legal battle, running a social media empire, and falling in love, all while covered in alpaca fur and probably smelling faintly of barn. It's not the life I ever imagined for myself, but it's more than I ever could have dreamed of. Uncle Bert, wherever you are, I hope you're proud. Your alpaca legacy lives on, one hum, one spit, one woolly hug at a time.